Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Girl, Is That Legal? With your girl, attorney Symone, your legal bestie. And on tonight's episode, y'all, we got a lot going on. I'm sorry, it is late. I don't even have my clothes on the way, y'all. It was a long day. It was a real long day. But we've got on the docket for today, we've got the OMG Girls. We've got Diddy in another lawsuit. We'll talk about that briefly because that one kind of deserves its own separate episode. And then we're also going to talk about, I got a lovely little shout out last night on Basketball Wives on the reunion. And we'll talk about how Christian's still lying to his wife is still believing her, and how he's got to turn himself in tomorrow coming home from his honeymoon. So those are the three things on the docket. Let's start with some good news. And that is regarding T.I. and Tiny and the OMG Girls. So in the chat, as you come on in, let us know where you're joining for. Ooh, Tara said, where you're joining from. Tara said, I just stopped watching Below Deck to turn it. Come on. This will be a good one. We'll probably be only about 30 minutes today for all the topics. And as you know now, after I do an episode, I try to break down the topics and repost those so you can see those. But for the OMG Girls, okay, T.I. and Tiny, I am so happy for them. So happy for them. Y'all, it has been 3 cases in. They have had to try this litigation absolutely cost them millions. They have had 3 separate lawsuits on this. So let me go put them up. Here we go. Because I want to make sure you guys know how hard they had to work to get here, okay? Because, if you look at them, they just look like the neighborhood swinging couple that you'd find, at your local titty park. They don't look like geniuses, or they look like if a corporation was going to be like, hey, what does a couple look like who we could get over? I think they would envision a couple that looks like, T.I. and Tiny hanging out at the titty park. But they got them. They got them good. T.I. and Tiny have won $71 million. It's comprised of approximately $17 million of actual damages and $53 million approximately of punitive damages. So let me just give you a breakdown on what the case was about and also the 3 cases. So the first, the case was basically about this toy company had the audacity to come out with a line of toys. They are the toy company that does the LOL dolls. Those are the dolls with the big old heads and the big old eyes. Yes, kind of look like Azalea Banks, but that's another story. So this company, they have the LOL dolls. Well, they came out with a line that was called the LOL OMG Girls. Around the same time that T.I. and Tiny's singing group, the OMG Girls, was out. Now, coincidentally, T.I. and Tiny's singing group, the OMG Girls, their demographic was what? It ranged from girls who still played with dolls, such as the OMG dolls, to girls all into their teenage years. Her daughter, Zonique was one of the members, as well as Lil Wayne's daughter and others. These people, y'all, let me put this on the screen. Look at this. These people are claiming, oh, we didn't infringe. You damn liar. Here we go. Y'all look at this. That's Zonique on the left. On the right is the OMG doll. She's a member of the OMG Girls. This is the LOL OMG doll. On the left here, we've got another one. I think this one is, let me make it bigger. That's not Lil Wayne's daughter, but it's one of the other girls, Exhibit 5. Same thing, Exhibit 6. Y'all see that big head doll in the middle? Now, that little girl, her head's not big. I'm not saying that. But even look at the bangs. On Exhibit 1, you got the green hair with a little bit of the black in the front. That little girl's got black bangs. Exhibit 2, you got the purple hair with the purple bang, with the unusual, shape. They got some nerve. I want to see in the chat, do you feel by looking at this that was infringing? And so to be clear, there are different forms of trademark infringement. This here was considered trade dress, which basically means how you make the product look. One of the most famous examples would be Tiffany and Company. Their box, how is that Tiffany blue box? That's considered their trade dress. So if you went out and sold jewelry and you used a turquoise blue box with that same font, and instead of it saying Tiffany and Company, you put your company's name, baby, you be in trouble. You be in trouble, just like these little crooks here. Okay. And so here's the other big kicker I'm super excited about. Now, my ADD, I didn't take my medicine. I didn't take my medicine in a minute. Make sure in the chat that I answer the question. Many people have DM'd me and said, hey, do you think T.I. and Tiny will actually get paid? And I want to make sure I speak to that before we conclude this segment. I want you guys to really make sure you understand the saga they had to go through to even get here. Now, hold on, let me make this a little bit bigger. Okay. The saga they had to go through, which was, and Nick at Night did a great job of, I love her, y'all, love her channel, of going through, and she actually attended the lawsuits. Well, so the first go round, they lost that one. Well, it was a mistrial, so it was not a loss. There's two different kind of mistrials generally. There's the mistrial where you have a hung jury, and then there's a mistrial where someone is accused of doing something they weren't supposed to. Well, here, there was a mistrial based on the fact that the jury was not supposed to hear that this toy company committed what we consider cultural appropriation. And we know cultural appropriation is basically when you take Black people's stuff and you, who are not a Black person, are now profiting off of it and not compensating us, right? So the court prior to trial had realized that those accusations, had ruled that those accusations could not come before a jury. In other words, a jury's not allowed to hear that basically these people did this to the OMG girls because they're racist. Because the judge found that that would be so prejudicial, it would not give the toy company a fair chance. Baby, then what I tell you at the beginning, these two, T.I. and Tiny, they don't look like somebody who'd fight back in a court of law in a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. Let's just call a spade, okay? They look like a couple that enjoys a titty park, and they do. And they do, okay? Now, because that information on, basically the information on the cultural appropriation was presented in front of the jury, toy company moved for a mistrial, judge granted it. Second trial was found in favor of the toy company, y'all. That's why this is such a big deal for T.I. and Tiny. The second trial, they actually said, no, looking at the same thing we looking at, y'all. Looking at hit that like, y'all. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. We got like 300 in the chat, 300 watching, and we don't got no likes. So somebody said, Ray won't be squeezing up the new year. Oh, thank you so much. Better than the tea. All right. So going back to it. So second trial, the toy company won. I don't know who the hell they had on their jury. I don't know, I don't want to talk politics, but you know who they probably voted for. I don't know who they had on the jury, but they went for the toy company. But guess what? T.I. and Tiny appealed that ruling. During the course of that appeal, there just happened to be a change of law. This never happens. There was literally a change of law. There was a change of law back in June. And in June, this new law by the United States Supreme Court, basically there was a case that went up. There was a company that made a doggy chew toy that was made to look like a Jack Daniels bottle. And that case was on the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court ruled that because Jack Daniels was saying this chew toy is infringing our trade dress. Again, trade dress is basically that design of your packaging. That design that if people look at it, they're like, oh, that must come from Jack Daniels, or that must come from Tiffany, right? Think of it this way. If your man gives you a box from Tiffany and you open it up and it's a Walmart ring in there, you're going to be all right. You're going to be like, no, you took their trade dress and you gave me this raggedy bubblegum ring or whatever it is. So with the Jack Daniels case, Jack Daniels, the Supreme Court found in favor of Jack Daniels that basically redefined trade dress and how it can be infringed. Therefore, that enabled T.I. and Tiny to get this new trial. And with this new trial, they have won. So I hope that helps break it on down. Now, here's the best tea. I always tell people, when you call and get a consultation with me, oh yeah, by the way, for that consultation, if you'd like one, they start at only $149 an hour. Sorry, $149 for 30 minutes. You can go to SymoneRedwine.com. And on my page, you can actually get my ebook as well, which is Background Checks 101, a beginner's guide to discovering who the heck you're actually dealing with, where I teach you how to run background checks. And then you can come up here and you can click book or hire attorney Symone to schedule a consultation with me, as I mentioned. So going back to this. All right. So, oops, I didn't even share the page properly, huh? This was the page here, book or hire Symone at SymoneRedwine.com. I'd love to help. I have so much fun doing that. All right. Going back to it, though. Now, here's the thing. Here's what we really care about. Are they going to get some money or not? Because it's great to win, but when you get to collect, that's what really matters. And Tiny had actually said she was in tears when the judge asked the jury who believes that this trade dress was infringed, and every one of them raised their hand. That's huge, because last time every one of them basically said no. Now, mind you, civil juries are different. Many people don't realize with civil juries in the majority of states, it just has to be a majority. So like in Texas, it's got to be, if it's 12 on the jury, it's like 10 of the 12 have to vote in your favor. Many don't realize that. But here, all 12 said yes, the trade dress was infringed. And because the total amount that was won, it was about $17,000. That is for the actual damages, and then the rest of the money, which was like $51 million, is punitive. This company cannot file bankruptcy to avoid paying them their money. Punitive damages mean you knew good and well what you was doing was wrong, and that's the case here. When I explain punitive damages to my law students, I put it to you like this: this is what punitive damages are. When you was running through your granny's house and she told you 50 million times, you and your cousin, don't be running through this house, you're going to break something, right? But you was running through the house anyway and you broke something. And then your granny gets the switch. And it was you and your cousins, all of them. Your granny gets the switch. She lines y'all all up. And she said, you come over here. And she switches you in front of your cousins. That's punitive damages. Punitive damages are when you get a punishment that is so severe in front of other people to deter them from doing the same thing. Because of that, you cannot get rid of punitive damages in bankruptcy. That's also why Tasha K was unable to get rid of her judgment against Cardi B in bankruptcy, because she too was found to have intentionally done the defamation, and therefore the jury awarded her punitive damages. All right, we only got 133 likes, y'all. Let's run those likes up. All right, so there we go. That's this one. Now, I'm just going to briefly talk about Diddy, Diddly Bop. I mean, he's absolutely ridiculous. So, here we are. With Dingbat Diddy, or Dum Dum Diddy, or however we'd like to call him. So, Diddy's got a new victim. This new victim is actually alleging that both he and his bodyguard, her name is Thalia, he and his bodyguard both abused her, you know the words, abused her, but also videotaped it, showed the videos to her boyfriend, and used it to effectively blackmail and humiliate her. Well, she's got Gloria Allred on the team here, and we'll get into it more in another video. But the gist of it is that this happened in 2001. And while I'm not saying that these are not valid claims, and I'm certainly not saying this didn't happen to her, her challenge is going to be, homegirl, why didn't you file back when Cassie had filed, when they reopened the time period for the lawsuit? Why didn't you file at any of these? It's going to be really, really difficult to say, oh, wait, I did not, to give a legitimate reason why you didn't file in the last 24 years when others did. So, X-Rib said, pray for Diddy. He gonna be all right. He'll be just fine. But speaking of Diddy is actively looking for others to join his legal team. So he is unhappy with his legal team. He wants to make sure he's got the best and the brightest. So he wants to add some people to the legal team. I want to hear in the chat, who do y'all think he should add to his legal team? Johnny Cochran is not with us anymore. He's gone on to glory. He's gone on to glory because you know he'd be right on top of it. Wait, you notice a lot of people from that OJ trial team that went on to glory. You know, Kim Kardashian's daddy, Johnny Cochran. That makes me nervous. Well, not my monkey, not my circus, not my business. But we got, and finally, I got to address this one. Now, I know, I'm going to see some of your comments in the chat. Make sure you hit that like. I am over the Jennifer Williams, Christian Gold saga until they put my name in it. So we're going to have to readdress this because they didn't put my name in it. So here we are. We're going to go ahead and go to that. Hold on, let me share this tab. So here we are. So I don't know if you guys watched the finale. For those of you who watched the finale of Basketball Wives, I'm going to go ahead and get comfortable because now I'm going to have to get ignorant. Okay? Ignorant. Get real comfortable. Y'all, I got on my good bra from Burlington Coat Factory. Feel like I can do anything. So, that's a good question. I'm going to start some of these questions. Kenny Black, you asked some of the best questions. I have to tell you, girl. Kenny is asking, I want to know if there will be any legal repercussions if a marriage license isn't filed. Okay, great question. I'll get into these before I get into some of the other. So the answer is it could be. However, the challenge is this. They actually did have a wedding. And what they told the judge is we want to go to our wedding and we want to have our honeymoon. So the fact that it's not going to be considered a legal wedding, I don't know that the judge would care about that, given that the ceremony actually did occur. And that's probably more monumental versus whether or not it's a legal marriage. But I think that's an excellent question. Yeah, I'm ignorant. I mean, for me to say it. Yep, somebody said, to say it. Evelyn's right. Evelyn's quite right. So here's what happened, y'all. Last night on the finale of Basketball Wives, they actually shouted me out, which is great. They did not use my name. But they made a clip. I'm going to play it for you shortly. And unfortunately, Jennifer, Jen. Evelyn was right. The po baby is not street smart. She's not street smart at all. And let me tell you, I'm not going to go hard on her today. I think we all realize this po baby, this po little tink tink, 50-year-old tink tink, she's not understanding. She's going to learn the hard way. But the reason I say I'm not going to go hard on her is, number one, I believe she's simply repeating the lies that her husband, her now husband, her ambiguously gay husband, allegedly, we don't know, that he has spit to her, like the lies he's telling her. And for many people in that situation, it's easier to believe the lies than have the hurt of the truth. Furthermore, what I see in their relationship, this is like the textbook way in which someone who ultimately may become an abuser treats you. So first, they love bomb you. Then they isolate you from your friends by making you feel like all your friends are talking about you in a negative way without love, which is not what happened here. Here, her friends were like, hey, I got concerns about this man. I think he's scammy, blah, blah, blah. That's what happened. And then finally, once they've isolated you, they go to town on you, whooping you around, throwing you around. I don't want that for her. I don't want that for anybody, okay? Woman, man, I don't want that for anybody. And so I don't want to create a situation where someone feels like, hey, I can't get help because they've got all these people laughing at me. No, you can absolutely get help. I'm not even I told you so. I'm like, come on, we gonna sue this person. We gonna get this person locked up, putting their hands on you. None of those things are acceptable. So I just say that from that perspective. HXY said, girl, I cannot believe she married him. Oh, Katie said she is demonetized. And obviously, I can envision that bisexual men probably have some really good D because they know how to do it to everybody, girls, boys, everybody in between. Now, I'm not saying that he's bisexual, but I have read some of your comments and those ones did. There we are. Yes, exactly. C. Griffin said he's going to tell her that everyone is jealous, etc. All right, so here we go. I'm about to play the clip. Here we are. Sound on.
From Lubbock, Texas. Jennifer, a video came out where a lawyer says she did some digging and found out Christian's restitution wasn't $250,000 but $12,000. Have you seen proof that the amount was $250,000?
First of all, these people doing all this digging, they have no idea what they're talking about. That was the initial amount, but there's motions that get filed.
Okay.
So there was an additional motion that got filed for more money, which was hospital bills.
Okay.
Like, I know the truth. The restitution is paid, so he's done with this case.
Was that something you guys did together, or did he pay this off on his own?
Christian has never asked me to pay a thing.
Wow.
So let's clear all that up right now. He's definitely never asked me to pay any of his restitution. He can pay it. We're good.
Evelyn, you look a little uncomfortable. Was it the restitution number?
I don't care about the restitution, but I do feel some type of way when I hear about it. Because there was a domestic issue. I don't know the specifics.
That's not accurate because Christian was acquitted of anything domestic. So I don't want that false narrative to be out there.
Can you tell me what he was actually convicted for?
False imprisonment.
Okay. Does that still make you uncomfortable, Evelyn?
It's triggering for me hearing those things. We had a conversation with her, and I just think Jennifer was talking fast when she said, it probably would have been better if she would have something about a car crash.
If you say, don't leave, let's work this out, that's considered false imprisonment.
I ain't know, man.
He would have been better off just letting her go, get in a car crash, and whatever happens to her. Well, yeah, because that's what his attorney said. It wasn't, I was not being insensitive to you.
I understand. You're really emotional, and I do understand you being defensive and protective. I love you and I want the best for you. The majority of us have experienced domestic violence situations, but when we hear you defend him and speak about the victim publicly, that's triggering for some of us. And whatever it was, we cannot tell her story.
No,
right?
Listen, I'm not trying to tell anybody's story.
I know. Don't be defensive with me. I know.
No. Listen, it's behind him. We're moving on. The restitution is done. I'm not going to continue to talk about it.
Listen, Jennifer, throughout all of the years on the show, the ladies have had strong opinions about each other's love lives. So I know you all have tried lovingly to talk about that. I know that there have been some cast members who may not have directly addressed it with you, but do have their own concerns. And I do want you to take a listen to some audios from this
Watch
season.
this, y'all.
Her ex-boyfriend scammed her, and then she meets this guy. She doesn't have street smarts. You date these guys and you always end up in. I worry about her marrying him. I feel like he's doing some scamming stuff. It's something that's not clicking there, but I'm gonna look into it.
Jennifer, I want to ask you how you feel about what you just heard.
Well, I think it's unfortunate. And honestly, I feel bad that he gets all these attacks because he really doesn't deserve it.
Brandy, I know that when the audio was playing, it seemed like you had a smirk on your face. Mm-hmm. What are you thinking?
Honestly, I think we're tiptoeing around the subject with her and Christian, and because we are cautious and gentle with Jennifer because we do love her and we don't want you to be mad at us.
We don't have to tiptoe around anything. Just like I don't have to agree with your decision, with you staying with Jason, you don't have to agree with my decision.
It sounded like you were concerned about your friend.
Yeah, and I never investigated him because I don't want this to ruin my friendship with her because I love Jennifer. I genuinely love her. So I have to kind of just be quiet and find the right words because I don't want her to be upset.
But, as friends, we do want to be able to say how we are really, truly feeling without her feeling like we're busting her balloon.
I appreciate the concern, and I wouldn't expect for my friends to do anything else.
So that was good. All right, so that's good. She's acting as though she's receiving it. She's receiving it in love. But I played the clip. Oops. Let me see. I played the clips multiple times. Let me see if I have one of them again. There we go. I have played these clips multiple times let's get this download. Export download. And in the clip, he is what we call in olden days, you call it dry begging. In that what he does is it's like he's telling her, if you want this lifestyle, if you want this Paris wedding, then we're gonna need to pay this restitution of $250. And the sooner that we get that done, the sooner we can travel. So he can call it what it, she can say he hasn't asked me, because that's probably what he's told her. He said, I've never asked you, have I? No, we know dry begging. I'm seeing if I can get that video clip back up. I know we all know dry begging when we've seen it. Like, you're not at all slick. Like, we ain't the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't have it right here in a minute. But what I do want to do is fact check. She said, I don't know what I'm talking about, and then I'm a liar. So the first lie was that, you know what? We're going to roll back to that first slide so I can just make sure that I am properly addressing.
I have another fan question. Is Sheila from Lubbock, Texas.
There we go.
Jennifer, a video came out where a lawyer says she did some digging and found out Christian's restitution wasn't $250,000, but $12,000. Have you seen proof that the amount was $250,000?
First of all, these people doing all this digging, they have no idea what they're talking about. That was the initial.
I know exactly what I'm talking about. I've been reading motions and briefs for almost 20 years now, and I've been a practicing attorney for over 16. So I know what I'm talking about. And actually, if you had read these, you might not have married them.
Amount, but there's motions that get filed.
Okay.
There's motions that get filed. All right, so let's address one of those motions. I'll go ahead and put it on the screen. Here's the motion. This is a motion and order denying his motion for a new trial. The court said, no, Negro, you did this, and you're going to jail. And so I'm going to read a bit from it. Here we go. I'm going to read a little bit from it. Because what it does do is it outlines that what he did was not some flyaway minimal thing, including, it says, on March 27th, defendant was living with his girlfriend in an apartment in DeKalb County. Twice, it said then defendant and her got into a disagreement. This disagreement related to a conversation and escalated into an argument. Twice, this woman attempted to leave the apartment. Defendant prevented her from leaving. The false imprisonment. As she tried to leave out of the door, the defendant pulled her back into the apartment. Melissa Kennedy and Brad Sims lived across the hallway from the victim. The defendant, from the victim and the defendant, and could see the door to their apartment through their peephole. Both Miss Kennedy and Mr. Sims observed the victim attempting to leave the apartment, but being pulled back into the apartment by the defendant. Miss Kennedy called 911. After seeing the defendant leave the apartment, Miss Kennedy and Mr. Sims stepped out into the breezeway and heard loud screams of "Help me! Help me!" Miss Kennedy and Mr. Sims ran down the stairs and saw the victim on the pavement. It was clear that the victim was seriously injured, so Miss Kennedy and Mr. Sims called for an ambulance. The police and ambulance arrived, and Miss Kennedy gave a statement to police stating that the victim fell from her balcony trying to get away from her boyfriend. In addition, this says the victim described attempting to leave the apartment at 2 different times. Both times, defendant pulled her back into the apartment. The only other way out of the apartment was from the balcony because she could not go through the apartment, like he had locked her on the balcony. The victim went out on the balcony and defendant closed the door behind her. Since he wouldn't let her out the front door. Remember, he kept dragging her back in, and the neighbors were seeing that. She goes on the balcony, and then he closes the balcony and closes her on there. It says she climbed over the balcony and tried to lower herself down to get closer to the ground and the platform of the apartment below her. When she lowered herself down, her feet were dangling and she realized she wasn't strong enough to pull back up. She yelled for the defendant to help her. And when she realized he wasn't coming and that she could no longer hold on, she let go and dropped. The victim landed on the pavement below her balcony, 3 floors below, and started screaming for help. Her neighbors, Brad and Melissa, came to help and called for an ambulance. The victim was transported to the hospital where she underwent several surgeries to repair damage caused by her fall. The victim's testimony and the defendant refused to allow her to leave the apartment through the front door was sufficient evidence to support the jury's verdict. Further, the victim's neighbors corroborated the victim's testimony. Thus, there was sufficient evidence to support the guilty verdict. And then it goes on and it even says the court finds that it properly denied defendant the opportunity to reopen closing arguments so that he could address the court's their closing instruction. This was the basis of his appeal. And let's see, this talks about the pictures that were admitted. In the conclusion, the jury's verdict was sound. The court finds the defendant is not entitled to a new trial. This is the motion that she's referring to. That was in August of 2017, which means, there we go. The motion she's referring to was denied, which means, you know what stands? You know what stands, geniuses? I'm going to put it back up. The restitution order that he signed. Here it is, guys. I know it's kind of small, but it says $12,500 on it. And it was signed October 16th of 2024 by him. This is Christian. This is Christian signature right there. Okay. So no one's lying. And when she said that, when they asked her, did you look at any of the documents? She was like, you didn't read nothing. You didn't read nothing. Oh, and if you want an additional step, hold on. There was something else she said. Let me play it. Let me see. I'm going to put this one back up. Something else. I don't know what she said.
So there was an additional motion that got filed for more money, which was hospital bills.
Okay.
Like, I know the truth. The restitution is paid, so.
All right, hospital bills. So now we're talking about the hospital bills. Absolutely. See, here's the difference between me and Jennifer's version of facts. Look, I just read the documents, so I'm going to put them on the screen for you. This is the transcript of the sentencing hearing. I know that the font is kind of like hard to see and it's kind of small. This was September 16th. So I want to say it was a month before Christian signed and agreed to the $12,500. The $12,500 includes the medical expenses. Here's why, and this is important. This is a teaching moment. This is the difference because some people are like, well, if she was in a wheelchair because her injuries were, she ended up breaking both of her ankles. She broke her back. She got a rod in her back. She was in a wheelchair for 3 months. Even her mother had lost her job because her mother was taking care of her for those 3 months where she wasn't working. All of those things. People were like, yeah, her medical bills could be $250. Sure could. However, here they weren't. First, she didn't have either. Let's see. I'm going to go to the exact page. I'm going to show you. But also, some people are like, well, what about her pain and suffering? All that could go to $250. You don't get pain and suffering in a criminal restitution claim. Restitution is only what you put out, including restitution is not what the insurance company pays on your behalf. Why? The insurance company has to make their own claim, and they have to make their claim in civil court. Only the victim can get paid restitution. That's what corporations do not get restitution in false imprisonment cases. But you don't believe me? Let's see if you believe the judge. Let's go on down to, let me see, page 15. All right, here on page 15. This is the judge. This is the hearing that was set to determine the restitution. At this hearing, the court says, and you're gathering restitution. I'm not sure if there's a need for a restitution hearing. It sounds like you might need more time to get additional medical expenses. Medical reports, it says. At the last pretrial discussions between the state and the defendants, I believe the total restitution was somewhere in the neighborhood of approximately $6,000. The state's attorney says $6,200. The court says, okay, I didn't ask, and then says, I know the victim lost her job because she was in a wheelchair for 3 months and couldn't walk. and she didn't have, insurance. Okay, guys. Okay. So that answers that. So what that's saying is that on that date of that hearing, they had submitted 6,000. The reason it's at 12,000 was because they supplemented additional bills. So there was no supplementation of 200,000 more bills. Oh yeah. One other thing. Mr. His version, Christian's version, is that they got in an argument. She was being drunk. He took her keys to help her, because that's what narcissists do. They're helpful. He was trying to help her to not drunk drive and left with the keys. Now, he never explained why she was stuck on a balcony. But what it was is, yeah, he took the keys, he left her, and he left her locked on a balcony. Now, here's what's important. This section of the transcript is a discussion between Christian, the defendant, and the court. Pay special attention. The defendant: I take total responsibility. The court: yes, and this wasn't the first time, Mr. Walden. The defendant: yes, ma'am. The court: the neighbors saw her being dragged back into the apartment, and it wasn't the first time they've seen that. The defendant: yes, ma'am. I truly understand that. In other words, and this transcript has a lot of different references to that. In other words, this wasn't their only domestic. Oh, there was another one. Oh, there was one other thing. Yeah, this wasn't their only domestic situation. This was simply the one where she got the most hurt. Oh, there's also reference to photos, that there were photos that were submitted of her injuries of black and blue to her face. Let me see. Restitution. Let's see. Try that one. Hold on a second. None of her medical bills. Her mother had to give up her job. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it went further down. Yeah, later on, either in this document or the prior one. But I want to show you this. Finally, and we're going to conclude on this, because I don't argue with stupid for free. You can pay me to argue for stupid, though. I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. Let me see. Was it in here? Hold on. It might have been in here. Here it is. Bam. The only pictures admitted. This is the motion from the court. Remember, this is the judge's order. This is page 9. So remember, Jennifer was like, there were motions that were filed, and that's how the restitution is higher. This is the motion. The order was denied, and no, there was no additional. The motion has no reference to increased restitution. The restitution is and only was the $12,000 that yo man signed a piece of paper to. But do note, the court notes the only pictures admitted in trial showed injuries to the victim's face or upper body, which were introduced to prove the state's family V charge. So those face injuries, that doesn't sound like that would come from the fall. The back, the neck, the feet, that's the fall. Okay, that's the fall part. However, I will note he was found not guilty of the family V. I will say that. I have liked it on 2 devices. Oh, thank you so much for watching. Oh, and finally, for the conclusion of the goofy foolishness, which one is this? Hold on. Make sure I have this one right. Yes, this is Christian Gold's attorney's own motion. I'm going to go to the end so you can see this is his attorney. He filed it August 20th. This is his attorney who, once again, has a Gmail address. And remember the golden rule when it comes to criminal court: if your lawyer has Gmail, you're going to jail. And if your lawyer has AOL, you're definitely going to jail. All right, well, this motion, on page 1 of the motion by Christian's own attorney, this motion, which was filed after the reunion, but it was shortly before he went to jail, specifically says, paragraph 2, the defendant was sentenced to 10 years to serve 7 in custody, complete domestic violence intervention program, and pay restitution in the amount of $12,500. I was also in the courtroom at his probation revocation hearing, where, again, his attorney stood up and told the judge, he's paid the $12,500. And if there's any final confusion there, we can go on up to the top of paragraph 4 on the second page, where not only that, it says he completed the domestic violence intervention program, consented to restitution, and sent a money order for the final amount. I can tell you this. The courts do not accept money orders for $250,000. In fact, I think the maximum money order can be is $1,000 because I just had to get one from the post office. So you really think DeKalb County Court is going to take $250,000 money orders? No, because it didn't happen. And finally, and in conclusion, the truth of the matter is, why would you lie about owing more restitution versus less? I would think you'd want people to think less restitution, right? Because that would mean, oh, what I did was not as big of a deal. It wasn't that serious. $250K restitution, that perked everybody's ears up because we were like, what did you do? Right? Did you do? The only way you would want someone to believe that you paid a higher amount of restitution is if they helped you pay that restitution amount that you lied on. That's the only reason why people would be like, no, he paid way more. Is if somebody helped him pay it. Word on the street is that he was asking family members and friends to help him come up with the $12,500 restitution that was recently paid. Oh, again, no, this document, that's August 20th. That's last month. You're supposed to have a $6 million net worth. Why did it take you so long to get $12,500? Because something you're doing is not right. It's not legit. It's not, the math ain't mathing. It's not mathing. All right. Big Al said, I know you lying. Can she file a civil suit against him? So because when she did that, she was unmarried. She could. Yeah, she could. It would be tricky. Let's get a few more likes in here, guys. We got 75 watching. But I want to take a few questions, answer these questions. But what you're not about to do is get on national television and call me, Attorney Symone, your legal bestie. Y'all's legal bestie. I ain't Jen's legal bestie for obvious reasons. You're not about to get up here and tell me I'm lying when you didn't read the paper. And you didn't read the paper because you would rather be in bliss. That's your right. You would rather be happy than be accurate. But that's how you get got. And Evelyn was right when she said she is not street smart. This is the epitome of what not street smart. But listen, Jenny G and Jen, if any day you wake up and you be like, wow, he's scamming me. This is unsafe. Girl, go. We will applaud you. We will congratulate you. I can say for me, I'm not going to be telling no jokes about you escaping and going to freedom or wherever you need to do to get away from this. Because I know if he is not using the dukes, if he's not getting physical, he's being mental. Because the fact that you were going through all of this, girl, you married a man who gets locked up 2 days before y'all fly to your wedding. You go to your exotic, international, classy wedding, and he is getting locked up tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow. He's got to check his little self in, cough, and get his little booty hole fingered and checked out for narcotics by 5 p.m. tomorrow. This is not the life that your parents dreamed up for you. You are better than that. You are better than that. It's scary. Let me just see if there's any. Oh my gosh! I got a super chat. Oh, thank you, Eunice. Thank you for my consultation worth every cent. Oh, thank you so much, y'all. I really love my consults that I do with clients. It helps me I can help you anywhere in the nation. You can get on my calendar and I do strategy consultations where there's something small claims court. Sometimes we find out like, hey, we don't need to sue. We need a demand letter. We get those things out. Kenny Black also asked, I want to know where there be, we talked about the legal ramifications. We sure did. Hit that like, share. So y'all, yes, they had a whole intervention on national TV and it still didn't work. Polo ting ting. But I mean, I applaud her friends, Brooke, Evelyn, all of the others in the background. I know that was an awkward wedding because there was people there, and I know a lot of people was like, ooh, I don't know, am I gonna get her a wedding gift for this wedding or somebody else? But thank you guys for joining. I'm your legal bestie. Make sure you subscribe and hit that notification button. Attorney Symone with Girl, is that legal? Thanks for tuning in. Oh, and feel free to hit that Cash App, Miss Redwine, if you so are able, if your heart is desires. Thank you. Bye.